Hi ladies, it's Elisa and I am here for an update for you guys. Um, a lot has happened and there's going to be a lot of information. I'm trying not to make the video too long or anything, but I wanted to update you guys. So why I started making these videos was because infertility is hard, and I always wanted to put my information out there, not only so that I would remember it, but so that if in any way possible, I could help other women out there possibly going through the same thing. Questions about IVF meds, and I know that that's different for every woman, but I wanted to help people and not only document my journey, but just put the information out there so that someone else going through this would be able to have a resource to go to. So that's why I'm here today, to give you guys information. And it is not going to be a happy video. It is a sad video. I have sad news to share with everyone. But the reason that I am sharing it is because I myself looked on YouTube for videos or information on what I'm going through, and really there's nothing out there. So I'm going to share what I am going through, and as I have this entire journey, and hopefully that will help somebody out there. So where I left you guys at was that we had gotten back our Harmony test results, and it showed a really high risk for Down syndrome, and so we were just adjusting to that news, but also the possibility that we could lose the baby, because some Down syndrome pregnancies they don't work out. It's a chromosomal issue, and sometimes the baby he can't grow right. So, and we were gonna have another scan, a follow-up scan at 18 weeks to or just after 18 weeks to find out how the baby was growing, how he was progressing, and all of that. It was basically an anatomy scan, and to see if the swelling that was at the base of his neck that indicated from the NT scan that had indicated that there might be a problem at all, to see if that had progressed to the rest of his body. And so that was on Tuesday, January 26th. And so I was 18 weeks and 2 days, excuse me. And at that scan, we did not get good news. Although baby boy was alive and did have a good, strong heartbeat, and he was wiggling around on the screen and looked perfect to me, the perinatologist came in after the tech had left the room, and basically was there with our genetic counselor, and I knew that when our genetic counselor walked in with the perinatologist that something was wrong, and that we would not be hearing good news. And I'm still laying there, all gooed up and stuff. And so the perinatologist wanted to look further herself, and not just at the scans that she had seen from the tech. The ultrasound tech. And so basically what the perinatologist told us is that the swelling had spread to baby boy's abdomen and around his lungs. So so that's not good. So they didn't have anything good to say. So she spent time looking, trying to see if maybe she could see something that the ultrasound tech couldn't see. But basically, there was so much swelling in his abdomen that they couldn't get clear, good pictures of his kidneys. And because of the swelling in the chest, they could see the heart, but they could not see it properly. Because still, even at 18 weeks, baby is still relatively small, at like 5.5 inches or something. So baby's still pretty small, even though he's starting to bulk up. So it's just really hard for them to see that with the swelling that he did have. And they showed us on the screen, and we could see, the little lungs, and then you see just this like fingertip width, it looks like on the screen, of just like an outline, like a like a gray outline of just fluid around his lungs. So they let me clean up and wipe off, and I proceeded to lose my S in the bathroom afterwards, because you have to have a bladder, full bladder and stuff. So I cried for a second in the bathroom and then went into the room, and that's where my mom and my husband both accompanied me to this ultrasound. But you can see, I mean, even though I'm not a doctor, you can see that even in the ultrasound, his stomach looks distended. It looks puffy, like not like a tiny little baby should, because I know how small he was. But they proceeded to sit us down and say, basically, that with that much swelling, that soon in the pregnancy, at 18 weeks, that was not good. That's not a good prognosis. It's not. A lot of babies do not grow out of that. It's usually fatal. So, the perinatologist basically just went over the fact that there's a lot of swelling, and that, in her opinion, she doesn't see a lot of these cases. In her opinion, as a doctor, she thinks that with that much swelling, the heart is working overtime, and it basically mimics congestive heart failure, and that with so much swelling, the baby's heart has to work so much harder to keep him alive. So usually they see fetal demise. I hate those words, but fetal demise within a few weeks of when they discover that swelling. So the doctor basically left, and then we're going over that with the counselor, and when they tell you that there are no words to properly describe that terror, but the genetic counselor went over the options with us about what to do about that scenario, and of course I was crying and upset, and my mom's trying not to cry because she's trying to be strong for me, and Brian's crying and trying not to cry because he's also upset. We're all upset. And when the doctor's there, when I'm there, I'm crying and upset, but I'm not sobbing. You know, I'm not, then it just, I guess I was numb. I was more trying to get the facts from the doctor and the genetic counselor. You know, what are my options? What's going to happen? So what they had decided was that they would schedule another ultrasound for 3 weeks from then to check on the baby's growth, but that they wanted me to be seen. I had an OB appointment that already pre-scheduled a week from that date. So that's what they were going to just do, and then I'd be monitored then, and then 2 weeks after that I would be having another ultrasound, another big ultrasound that was like the anatomy scan to check on him. And my options were to obviously end the pregnancy, and you have, at that point it's called a D&E, not a D&C, because the baby is larger, and the baby is, you know, your cervix is dilated, and the baby is removed basically from your uterus. Or you can induce labor and give birth to your child, and either way, the baby's too young, obviously, at that point to survive, but also at that point, with how sickly he is, he would obviously not survive the labor anyway, even if he was old enough. So they're going over all these options, and you're sitting there listening, going, I don't want to do any of those things. I want a healthy baby. I did IVF. I've, done thousands of shots for this, and my baby's sick. So that's not what you want to hear. And then we leave, and we have to walk up to the car and find the car and in the parking structure next door. And we are on the road for 5 minutes, and all of a sudden it hits me, and I lose it, and I can't breathe, and I thought I was going to pass out. Because that's not the news you want, right? That doctors are telling you basically, in their experience, your baby's going to die within the next 3 weeks. And you haven't got to hold him or see him. Yeah. The hard videos are harder to make. But again, I want to hopefully help somebody else who might be going through the same thing. So, my genetic counselor sends my results to my OB, and my OB, being the great doctor that she is, immediately calls me. We hadn't been home for a couple hours, and she had called me. And I wanted to know things. At that point, we had spent most of that time crying and mourning, you know, the imminent loss of our child. And she basically answered my questions about what will happen. Because we have decided not to preemptively end our son's life. We are not going to be doing a D&E. Our plan is to wait until he passes naturally. If in fact that does end up being what happens. And then give birth to him. And see him and hold him, and that's our plan. So we were talking about what birth would be like at, you know, where I am in my pregnancy, and what I would expect. You know, I was like, is my milk gonna come in? Is my body gonna know that this is too soon so it won't? You know, I wanted technical information, technical questions. So she was really great about answering those, and I had a work trip planned, going on an airplane and going to a conference, and that obviously we canceled. The doctor agreed with me that really being too far away from my family and my local hospital and stuff really just wasn't a good idea. Just for my emotional state, really, if something were to start happening. But the very next day, the perinatologist, or my genetic counselor, and my perinatologist had apparently been talking later that afternoon after we left and that morning. And the perinatologist felt strongly about the fact that I was not going to be seen every week. And so she arranged for me to have she wanted a perinatologist to see me every week until I saw her. And then after that, I think we're going to assess where I am if baby boy is still with us. So we had our OB appointment was going to be a week from then, and instead, when they switched me to perinatology, it had to be a week and a half from then. So that appointment was on Friday. So today's Sunday, or Saturday, and I was fine all week. You know, we have to tell people, we tell my coworkers, everyone who knew we were doing IVF, our close family, you know, because it's hard. People were sending us baby things, and, you know, we were preparing for a life with a baby with Down syndrome. We weren't preparing for a life with no baby. So, yeah. So we were telling people, and that was awful, and we had to tell our girls, which was further amounts of awful. And we had to deal with it ourselves, and really there's just been good moments and bad moments. There's not a good day. There's not a whole good day. There are moments where you forget almost, and then and you're laughing and trying to enjoy yourself, and then you remember that your baby's sick, and, you know, that's devastating every time I remember it. So, on Friday, we had our ultrasound, and that day was horrible. I was very anxious and very scared because at that point, we basically left the last ultrasound being basically told by our perinatologist that his passing is imminent. And so at this point, we're just waiting for it. You can't fix this problem. They can't say that no child grows out of it because some infants in utero do. And my genetic counselor clarified it wasn't actually a 99% chance of Downs. It actually, the test only came back specifically with 80% chance of Downs. And they can't confirm Downs, obviously, without an amnio, and we're not going to do that. And it's kind of like a circle. So the swelling is preventing us from looking at the heart. So we can't tell if the heart is the reason for the swelling. And they can't see the kidneys. You know, it's just, we don't really know what's causing it, and that's hard too. Is it the Downs causing the heart defect that's leading to the swelling? Or is it not Downs at all and the baby just has a heart defect which is causing the swelling? Or is it none of the above and it's like an autoimmune disorder or something where it has to do with his lymphatic system and his lymph nodes are just not processing growing very well, but that he could grow out of it? Or, you know, the doctor doesn't sound confident that he will make it through this in any way. So, at that appointment, we're basically going into it terrified, thinking, this is it. This weekend I could be giving birth to my son, who will have been gone, and that terror was real and gripping my heart, and it was really hard to go to that ultrasound. And luckily, the perinatologist that we saw at my local hospital was great, and he was immediately, when he was talking to us before he had even had me lay down, and then asking us questions about if we understood the diagnosis, if we had any questions, or what they've told me so far about what to expect, and he was really great. And then he laid me down and I put the gel on my stomach, and immediately when he put the gel, the wand on my belly, I saw baby boy's butt flip up and dance a little. So, it was great to see that he was still there and still kicking and still with us, and that was amazing. So I'm freaking out on the table and Brian's freaking out looking at the screen, and the doctor said, well, he's got a good strong heartbeat and do you want to listen to it? And it was great to see him and see that he's doing well. And I was asking lots of questions. The doctor asked me if I'd been reading about it because I was asking lots of good questions and engaging him in conversation, because once I saw baby boy moving, it was like the sun came out of the clouds. And, you know, he was with us for one more week. He was still with us. And, you know, damn you in your, 3 weeks or imminent death, because he's still here. So that was great. And, he spent some time with us. It was about a 15-minute ultrasound, and he measured him and said, well, he's right on track for where he should be, measuring 19 weeks and 3 days. And, he's got good sides. And so he looked at the fluid around his lungs and at his cavity. He said, well, his stomach is really big. And he was asking lots of good questions about what they had been told, because this is the first time he has seen our baby and he didn't have any point of reference. So, he was asking us questions and I was answering all of them, obviously. And Brian's still kind of sitting in the corner in a stunned stupor. Just grateful that our baby boy is still with us. So, he's here. Our baby boy is still here with us. I am 19 weeks and 6 days pregnant. Whew. And I'm scared and sad, but he's here still now, and that's really all I can hope for at this point. What I want is a miracle. What I want is to be the 1 in a million chance that he will grow out of this swelling and he will be born just fine. Or born, you know, at 40 weeks, hopefully, you know, with even a heart condition that we can fix or treat with medicine or something. You know, that's what I want. But I am not being delusional about that. I am not going to expect that to happen. The doctors are not expecting him to make it. So, it's a hard place to be, to want to hope, but to know that the doctors aren't hopeful. The doctors don't think that that's going to happen. So, I'm back on the wagon of baby things make me sad, diaper commercials make me angry, just like they did when I was going through infertility. Because I don't know. There's so much we don't know. But I wanted to update you ladies, even though it's a very sad update. I hope you guys stick with me, but I understand if you don't. These are hard things to hear, and they're hard things to think about, and I'm just taking it one day at a time, so not even a day at a time. I can't even make it that long, a moment at a time. You know, I wake up in the morning sometimes having dreamt about his passing in a million different scenarios, and with tears, and then I'll go on for the rest of the day, and it's not such a bad day. You know, I'm pregnant today, and I'm going to be pregnant and enjoy every last second of it for as long as I get to be with him. Because I love him, and I want him to be healthy, and I don't want him to be in pain, and I want him here, but I want him here at 40 weeks with a good strong heartbeat. I don't want him here at 20 with no heartbeat. So, I'm sorry for such a sad update, guys. If I could change it, I would. But I don't want to fall off the map either and leave you guys hanging, and that's not what this channel is for. That's not why I created it. I created it to inform you guys. Another update, not to do with this baby, but because of the Harmony test results and the fact that they suspect Downs and possibly a heart defect or something, it has made us question our decision to do PGS testing on the remaining embryos. So we have an appointment on Monday to meet with our RE, our reproductive endocrinologist who did our IVF, who I thought I wouldn't have to see for quite some time, to decide if, before we move them to the long-term storage facility, if we do want to have them tested, what the risk factors are for those embryos. If we do have them tested, since they are already frozen, I think they have to be defrosted and to be tested. And plus, the PGS testing, it can endanger the embryos. You can destroy them just by doing the scraping for the genetic information, and what that would mean to us. Would we want to destroy embryos with Downs? I mean, do we want to try to go through this again? Do we want to know the sex of the embryos? You know, I don't know. It's hard to think about future babies because this one it's still here. My boy is still here, and his story's not done yet. And depending on how it ends, you know, I don't know if I would want to do it again. I mean, I want to give birth. I want to have a baby. But I don't know. It's hard to think about those things. But again, I'm a practical person. I need to decide what's going to happen to these embryos. Me and Brian have to decide, because if there's any chance that we want to have more children, then we need to be able to take care of those embryos. So we've been dealing. Brian's been dealing. The girls have been dealing. It's hard to talk about with them. It's hard to talk about with anyone, really. My people at my work have been great. really helping me through this, because there are just some moments where I'm crying. It's just, I just am. I'm just sad. Sorrow takes me, and I will pull myself back, but I need a few minutes, so, because I can't, because we're in mourning, but we're not. He's not gone. I'm mourning the things that I might not get to do with him, that I probably won't get to do with him. But we have a plan, and we have a plan for what will happen, for the worst, when the worst happens, if the worst happens. I mean, no one knows, right? God is the only one. And I've been trying to do some bargaining there, but I'm pretty sure that God doesn't negotiate. So, we're just hoping at this point that he stays with us for as long as he can. But he's a fighter, and he was there on the ultrasound on Friday, and he was wiggling and dancing and not acting like a sick baby. He looked like a happy baby. He was curled up and being difficult for the doctor and wiggling and flipping and, being a baby. So, my baby's a fighter. I mean, he made it through a deep freeze, so he's got to be tough, right? But yeah, and that's my update. Not happy news, but happy news, because he's here. He's still here with me. I'm still pregnant, and I'm huge. And I'll show you guys soon, I promise. Maybe next update. It's hard to walk. It's my feet hurt. My back hurts when I walk too long. Yeah. I mean, symptoms. Every time I feel myself start to complain about symptoms, I'm like, you know what? I would be a million times more miserable for 40 more weeks if it meant that I got to bring him home in the end. Healthy and happy. So, bring it on. Every pregnancy symptom, every new one, at this point, I'm like, I'm thankful for all of them. Even though some of them are hard. But yeah, so let me know if you guys have any questions or anything. Second trimester loss is not something that people talk about very often, which I find frustrating. Probably because it's so hard that people can't feel like they can't talk about it. I can barely talk about it. But he's here today, and he's alive, and he's fighting. And right now that's what I have to be thankful for. Other than that, other than my baby being sick, my pregnancy has been basically ideal. I still have only gained 1 pound at this point, and I am almost 20 weeks pregnant, so my OB would be proud. And I'm doing really well, and as far as symptoms go, they really, even the ones that I have that are tough, are still relatively mild. But he's here with me right now. And I appreciate all your guys' support. Again, questions, I'm an open book. I'll answer them if I can. Yeah. And I'll be talking to you. Bye, guys.